Hi everyone. Have you guys ever heard of image rights? I'm pretty sure you've often heard of it. It's one of the most common cause of conflict between clubs and players, especially when it comes to sponsorship. Footballer image rights came to the limelight during the Premier League in the 1990s, when a group of players such as Dennis Bergkamp, Patrick Vieira, and David Platt started negotiating their image rights with their clubs. So, what exactly are footballer image rights? And how do image rights work? First, we gotta make it clear what is meant by the image. The image referred to here is not just about the physical appearance, but also includes his name, his nickname, his voice, his signature, and even his jersey number. Take the CR7 as an example, which refers to Cristiano Ronaldo. That unique characteristics is the image rights of Cristiano Ronaldo. When a club owns a superstar player who is widely known around the globe, they can use all their unique characteristics to promote the club's new kits and merchandise. They can even use the player to promote products from the club's sponsors. Now think about how a club can use its players to make money, not just for playing football, but also to get profits from advertising, merchandise sales, as well as the rise of the club's brand image. So, it's fair that players want to earn more than just a salary from playing football, because of their image rights that are being exploited by the club. For that reason, footballer image rights are now a complicated, and often tough, negotiation process. Football has increasingly become a global product, bigger than in previous years. Lots of players have celebrity status. Football is not just football now. Players don't just get a salary and sleep. Again, take a look at Cristiano Ronaldo, who has an Instagram following that beats singers and Hollywood celebrities. The same goes for PSG, who was able to make €1 million by selling Neymar's jersey in just one day after he signed, before he even played. And did you know that the 2018 FIFA World Cup was watched by half of the world's human population? Football is amazingly a huge business. All of this illustrates that football has a huge fan base. It's a lucrative market to make as much profit as possible. Now, the football clubs that want to use the image rights of a player, and use it to exploit profits, must definitely negotiate it all with the player.
Footballer image rights are not included as part of player salary agreements and contracts, but rather an entirely separated agreement. Image rights agreements and contracts have to be comprehensive. They have to explain and limit what a club can and cannot do with a player's image rights in order to avoid conflicts. But, such image rights contracts usually are not between the player and the club, but rather between the club and a third-party company, a company that's set up by the player or the player's appointed representative. Football player with high image rights value usually do this, creating an image rights company, and granting the rights for their image to the established company. The company then exploits the image rights, and negotiates with the club to get the best possible deal for the player it represents. These image rights contracts are agreed between the company and the club, or their sponsor. And the contract is often not only a license of the player's intellectual property rights, but also includes the player's consent to endorse or use the sponsor's products, and to make personal appearances, for example, in sponsor advertisements. The point is to separate the main contract as a footballer and the image rights contract. But the question is, why should it be a separate company, though? Yes, you got it right. It's tax. The individual income tax for a football player is on average 45%, which is a huge figure, and if the image rights income is included in the player's salary, then they have to pay an even bigger amount of tax. That is why they use a separate company, as the corporate income tax is in much lower percentage of 19%, which is quite a big difference between the two. But paying taxes through such a company is controversial, especially if the company that represents the player is registered overseas. It is often the country where the club is located takes issue with this.
Besides the problems that can arise from taxes, image rights can be problematic when there is a conflict of interest between the player's sponsor and the club's sponsor. Most big clubs from the Premier League or La Liga have dozens of sponsors, and each sponsor wants the image rights of a famous player owned by the club only. Meanwhile, players also have their own personal sponsors, ranging from sports brand sponsorship, perfumes, clothing, watches, food and drinks and so on. Can you imagine what happens if the players and club sponsors are competitors? Obviously, the negotiations will be tough. Conflicts of interest over image rights also happen with club managers. For example, when Jose Mourinho joined Red Manchester. At that time Mourinho was sponsored by the car company, Jaguar, and the watch company, Hublot. At the same time, United was sponsored by a car company, Chevrolet, as well as a watch company, Bulova. The problem at the time was that Mourinho's personal sponsor did not allow him to wear Bulova watches and promote Chevrolet. On the other hand, Manchester United also didn't want to lose profits if its manager's big name couldn't promote their sponsors. Conflicts like this take a long time to come to an agreement to make sure they both reach a win-win situation. You may still remember when Tottenham Hotspur almost secured Dybala's signature. At that time negotiations were looking smooth and Dybala was almost certain to join Spurs. But at the very last moment, the contract could not be finalized. It was reported that they couldn't reach an agreement on image rights. Dybala's image rights were owned by a company called Star Image. The problem here is that the company was not exclusively established to manage Dybala's image rights, which means that Dybala had no control over the company. Unlike other image rights companies that is usually established, owned, and controlled by player. So, instead of Dybala himself, it was Star Image that controlled Dybala in getting benefits from sponsors such as Adidas, Gatorade, and others. Meanwhile, the Spurs were sponsored by AIA and Audi. And in the negotiation process, the Spurs wanted to make sure that Dybala didn't get sponsorship from insurance and car companies. For this reason, it seemed that Star Image wanted to be compensated for the conditions proposed by the Spurs, because the company may lose the opportunity to get sponsorship from insurance and car companies in the future. But, it appeared the compensation Star Image was seeking was way too high for the club.